Hi guys, uh, I want to talk about a few of the most important concepts I learned in my course, An Introduction to Human-Computer Interaction. And I feel like these two separate concepts, they can be very solidly understood with a link, and they're very relevant in our everyday lives. So, have you ever wondered why sometimes the design of some things is much harder to understand than the design of others? And it can really make you feel dumb sometimes. A simple example is a door with no sign on it to tell you which way to push. A simple rectangle here. And sometimes you end up, you know, pushing it or pulling it when you're not supposed to, when you're supposed to be doing the opposite. But this isn't a problem with the user. This is actually a very significant design flaw. And the reason this happens is because the user's mental model does not align with the designer's conceptual model. Now, what do these two terms mean and why are they significant? The mental model is the way that the user understands the way an object works or a design is supposed to work. And this is based off of their understanding. Their prior knowledge has a very huge impact on this. So this can apply to, for example, an app where you would expect that because your experience with another app was so and so way, it should be similar in this app as well. And a different design might confuse you at first, and you might think, well, why would they do that, And a very recent example that users of Instagram might be able to relate to is how they've tested switching around the tabs of where you have your explore, where you have your DMs, and because the user's mental model is so used to the prior knowledge of where these are supposed to be, it's really hard for them to remember where this thing is supposed to be clicked from now. And because of that, this is an example of the conceptual model and the mental model very poorly aligning. So the conceptual model is basically the designer's understanding of the user's understanding. That's the simplest way to put it. So the designer might think that, oh, this is pretty self-explanatory, or oh, the user will easily be able to pick up on this because I'm easily able to pick up on it. And this is when you have to remember something which there's a law created about to keep reminding us of that you should always assume that your website is not the website that the user spends their most time on. So because of that, you need to kind of conform with other pre-existing designs or have very clear and easy to understand designs. Now, what happens when the mental model and the conceptual model do not align? This causes two types of gaps in understanding. This causes the gulf of execution and the gulf of evaluation. So both of these are easily understood by the gulf of execution being how do I do this thing, and the gulf of evaluation being what is happening. So the gulf of execution is when it's difficult to figure out how to actually do something on the system. And the gulf of evaluation is when it's difficult to figure out what's happening next, what the current state of the system is, and how your actions impacted the system. So one example of the gulf of execution would be when you're just unable to find how to do what you want to do. So for example, if on a microwave you only have symbols and icons on it and they're not very self-explanatory. So you're like, okay, how do I do this action that I want to do on this? How do I defrost my chicken, for example? And the gulf of evaluation would be that, okay, I've pressed this button or I've done this, and now, like, has it worked? What's happening with the thing right now? Is it preparing my food? Is there going to be a little buffer period before it does that? And this is why, for example, on the microwave you would have the timer, and why on the microwave you would have some sort of label or maybe some sort of guide in one corner telling you what means what. So when you keep these concepts all in mind, you basically get a much more guided idea of how you should be designing, which is that you should always keep in mind that your user's understanding might be different from yours, and their mental model is the most important key to design, and something that you really need to keep in mind, which you can do by going out and understanding their perspective more. You can do it through interviews, you can do it through field studies, but understanding the mental model is the key to aligning your conceptual model with it and eliminating these gulfs of execution and gulf of evaluations. And this was kind of my biggest takeaway from HCI, because after this I've been noticing this in all apps, like kind of subconsciously, that oh, this doesn't align with my mental model, oh, this is a gulf of execution evaluation. And once you really understand these concepts, you'll start to notice them everywhere, and it'll actively make you a better design thinker. And uh, it's just a useful practice to exercise your brain more regularly in general. So this is a pretty interesting and important takeaway from HCI. Thank you.